Hi, I'm Jasper.
Hey, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit this week, ending Friday, April 5th, where we're going to try to squeeze in all the rocket pool news in about 30 minutes. This week, Wack is on a special assignment. He is working behind the scenes. So in his place, we have Jasper from the rocket pool community, one of our most prominent members. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you in Denver, and you are just an amazing guy. All the work you do, the thousands of hours in Discord, the research, the fantastic Twitter posts, medical school. I mean, can we say any more about you?
I appreciate it. I'm deeply thankful. I mean, I wouldn't be going if the community wasn't as awesome as it was. It's a good
Yeah,
motivator.
yeah, it is pretty great. So, as we do most weeks, we'll get into this week's prices for Ethereum or ETH and Rocket Pool. You know, we've been in Jasper kind of like in this crab market, anywhere from 32 for ETH, anywhere from 3,200 to 3,700. It's been a down week. If we look, we started the week at about 3,550 in US dollars. We're down to about 32.41 at the time of recording, and then RPL also down. Last week for the ETH ratio, we were at 0.0087, and right now we are at 0.0082. So it's been a down week. Do you have any
Yeah.
insights on why the markets are down a little bit?
The Ethereum ecosystem as a whole has been trending down, largely, in my opinion, as the bigger players start to price in the ETF being rejected as we get further and further into April without, any movement from the SEC. This aligned with the pretty dramatic debate that's been happening around Ethereum issuance. I think has spooked store of value holders, and it's my belief that store of value generates the majority of the Ethereum market cap. So like the berm is just a meme that backs the idea of Ethereum as a store of value, and issuance is really the primary factor in a lot of people's minds around that. And so with this debate around Ethereum issuance raging, it seems like that there's been second and third order effects into the price of Ethereum and especially the price of staking tokens.
Gotcha. And we've got a Electra issuance curve adjustment proposal here I put up on the screen. Do you want to just walk us through? This has been debated the last, I would say, month or so? It started maybe a month or two ago.
So the original research was about 6 months ago, but it was very quiet at that time. There's a few minor discussions in trading, but it was not until this post that we're looking at, really, where things hit a crescendo.
There's some Ethereum researchers. They came to some conclusions about issuance. What did they recommend, and how is that different from what we currently have?
Sure. So there were two big pieces put out. The first was about the case for targeting, which is the general argument that the Ethereum stake ratio, how much ETH is staked, should be kept at some targeted level, and we should not allow it to approach 100%. They argue that it would actually reduce home stakers and solo staker diversity if we allow it to approach 100%. Further, it would turn ETH into a very expensive asset to maintain, right? If we have to inflate currently at 1.8% with all ETH staked versus under the proposed inflation, which we're looking at right now on screen, which would have it brought down to, I believe, 0.5% at terminal inflation. So there's a lot going on here. What this proposal would do is reduce issuance along the entire curve. So it would have an immediate effect on all staking, and especially staking pools. The goal, roughly, is to maintain vanilla ETH as some respectable force. Mike Neuter had this great essay called Set Theory, where he argues for why having different layers of abstraction being represented is good. The issue I have is actually like three or fourfold. I'm working on a larger essay on this, but probably going to end up being like 100 pages. There's a few assumptions that the authors of this piece put forward that I disagree with. Also, before I go into this, I just want to say these researchers are great people. They've been getting a lot of flack on Twitter that is undeserved. And they really care about home stakers. They might be wrong, but that doesn't mean they're bad people.
Right.
So anyway, yeah. A few assumptions that they make. One, they believe that the majority of stakers, home stakers, solo stakers, are already on the network. Which seems silly to me, given that crypto has only hit a small percent of the global population. There's another assumption that the Ethereum stake rate, even above 0%, so if inflation is above 0%, some positive integer, they don't think that stake will necessarily go to 100%, which I disagree with. They seem to be in the camp that under this adjusted curve, there will be at some point a level where real yield is greater than any other point, and that's where things will equilibrate. That seems wrong to me, though, as LST holders are going to be the majority force in staking, and they will take any positive yield, right? If you're holding naked ETH, why wouldn't you just accept a world where you could earn slightly more? So that's roughly my criticisms of it. And you can find a lot more debate on this on Twitter, on the forums.
So my understanding is that there's not going to be a decision made before Pectra, the next hard fork. Is that correct?
Yeah. So originally the Caspar and Ansgar were pushing for a Pectra release, and their reasoning was fairly sound in that if they didn't get it in Pectra, the next reasonable time frame would be roughly 2 years, given the next hard fork after Pectra is going to probably be Verkle trees and fairly large and slow to get out. So in that sense, their argument was reasonable. However, they were not appreciative of how it would come across to be arguing in favor of a proposal in the immediate next hard fork. So the community felt somewhat slighted, more than somewhat in many cases. Justly, unjustly, I'll let the reader decide. But yeah, it seems as of the extensive backlash that it will not be in Pectra.
Gotcha. Well, we look forward to seeing your next white paper. Not like you don't have anything else to do, but now you put that on your plate. So definitely looking forward to reading more about it. And, with the decentralized nature of Ethereum, it seems this is a perfect example where there's a debate going on. And if there's not consensus, then it's not going to be implemented, right? And these are the hard discussions that'll be taking place, in the coming months.
One of the arguments is that this is going to make the SEC reject the ETH ETF. It's kind of funny but I think the reverse is true. Like, this is a great example of how decentralized Ethereum governance is, right? These are the Robust Incentive Group is funded by the Ethereum Foundation, and they put a very strong proposal forth that was soundly rejected by the community.
Right. Yeah. So it's not like there's a corporate board making decisions, and whereas this is completely decentralized. And yeah, you're right, exactly. And on top of it, I think the SEC has become more political in their nature, and they're making decisions instead of just merit based. Unfortunately, it's become political, like most things. So on to let's talk about the deposit pool. We haven't touched on this in a while because it's been full or over full, but this week. It is below the limit of 18,000. Right now, we're standing at 14,688. What's the reason it's below? All of a sudden, now we're below it after months of being maxed out. Do you have insight on that, Jasper?
There's roughly 3 major contributions to this. So the first one hasn't been talked about too much, but has been slowly ongoing in the background, and that's the RETH peg on Arbitrum is actually quite volatile. Despite having decently good liquidity there, the IMC incentivizes it there. We've had some outside assistance. The RETH peg there tends to fluctuate and cause a lot of arbitrage with mainnet, and has had a fairly consistent DPEG for the last month or so. So if you're looking to get some bonus yield, pay attention to Arbitrum. You can probably buy some cheap RETH there and then bring it back to mainnet to burn. So that's one of the slow behind-the-scenes passive contributions. Then more recently, we had a fairly large burn event. This is it's not exactly clear what triggered the burn, given that RETH on mainnet is not at a discount. It's still, towing the line, being essentially right on peg or a very slight premium. But the major burn event cleared out a lot of overhead from the overfill pool. The deposit pool has an additional 1% buffer reserved for RETH burns, so that was cleared out, allowing future burns to eat into the deposit pool. And then we had a whale migrate a large amount of LEB16s into 8s finally.
Finally.
Yeah, so those two things in conjunction brought the DP, I think, at its lowest down to 13,000, and it's trended up slightly since then.
Well, all you need to do is post out a tweet that there's room, because in the past, when you've done that, within hours the thing fills up.
Right. The whales start coming.
Yeah, they're all monitoring you. Let's move on to we've followed tokenomics a lot on the weekly orbit, and the discussion is progressing. And one of the things about taking and adding our RPL our value capture was that we would take some of the commission that would be going to ETH only stakers, and using that. First, they thought, well, let's give some of that ETH that they earn to those who stake RPL. And then that evolved into, well, why don't we, instead of doing that, which might run into some legal problems, why don't we just take it and burn RPL with that ETH? And then now there's another proposal of using single-sided LP deposits. Okay, so with that, let's just you're kind of a DeFi guy, but there's a little thread here that I had Valdorf and Nashua and Phil Cares were knocking around. And I think what Valdorf says here is, you would get, with an LP single-sided deposit, you'd get 90% of the benefit of a burn, but also provide liquidity for RPL, which then gives confidence to people to hold it because it's not as volatile. Do you have any insight you want to just give our listeners on what are the benefits of a single-sided LP instead of just doing a straight burn?
Yeah, so let's just talk about what a single-sided LP is first. So let's say that you have two assets. Right, let's just talk about a McChicken valued at $1. And you wanted to provide single-sided liquidity for that McChicken. What that ends up looking like is liquidity below the price of $1 and no liquidity above $1. So this is liquidity that could only be sold into and essentially will absorb buy pressure. This has the effect of negating sell pressure and allowing the price to gradually move upwards as buy pressure comes in. This is different than buy and burn in a few ways. First of all, it's not programmed buy pressure. It is protected sell pressure. It's protection from sell pressure. So the benefits of buy and burn are greater liquidity. However, it doesn't necessitate buy pressure coming in. So that's, I think, why Valdorf gave that 10% discount. There's another concern that I have with the general scheme of locked LPs, which is roughly would be like, in that it adds dependencies, fixed dependencies to AMM protocols. So like a Uniswap v2, relatively risk-free at this point. Like chances of there being a bug there super small.
Right.
But we can't use v2 for something like
No.
this. We would need to use Uniswap v3, which adds some complexity. It's newer. Oracle attacks happen on it. The major benefit of a buy and burn in this sense is that the dependency on the protocol only happens during the transaction of the buys. Whereas in the locked LP model, the dependency is a continuous one. You're always dependent on that third-party protocol with protocol assets now. Like the IMC incentivizes liquidity on these protocols, but there's no protocol, there's very little protocol-owned value in it. This reminds me a little bit of when Zero, way back in the day, wanted to have RPL staked replaced with Bancor V3 RPL. So we would have the staked LP tokens instead of just staked RPL, which would have had the benefit of adding a lot more liquidity to RPL. It's not clear to me that value capture is the best time to be doing LP stuff. We still have the IMC, which can incentivize liquidity at a much more nuanced scale. So, yeah, open to discussion. I lean towards buy and burn, but
yeah, it sounds like there's benefits that maybe you create a honeypot with if you put all this into, say, a balancer pool that could be, it's maybe not hasn't had the Lindy effect as long as some other maybe AMMs. It's a little more complex. Buy and burn straightforward. I mean, there might be benefits. There's benefits to both, but I was thinking of, the marketing of this. And when I say burn in crypto, people know what that is. Oh, right. Yeah, Ethereum burn. That, man, ETH is awesome. Look at ultrasound money. It's burn. I can watch the burn. It's very understood and simple. Single-sided LP, a little more complex. Under the hood, things work perhaps better, but in terms of marketing, it's more complex and maybe not as well understood by sophisticated market people will know, but maybe the Joey Bag of Donuts is not going to understand that. That's one downside of something like this, I think, in my simple terms.
Right. No, I definitely agree. I think reducing complexity as much as we can is crucial. Right. The old Rocket Pool system constantly had issues of people not understanding how it worked.
Right.
And so like the more dummy proof we can make it, the better. Like that's just increasing our total addressable market. Right.
And I was thinking like guys like you, me, Whack, who are active in social media and spreading the word about Rocket Pool and how we can make the message as simple and clear as possible, I think is beneficial. I said last week, there's that old saying, if you're explaining, you're losing. If you have to explain and explain, you can or rather than you just say, hey, we do a burn. RPL burns every day or every month. I get that. I understand that. So, but
there's also,
go ahead.
Just a thought I had. If we do, as a protocol community, PDAO want to really entrench liquidity, we can just redirect some of the value away from buy and burn to the IMC, specifically earmarked for liquidity.
Yeah. So you can attack it from that end.
Right.
Instead.
I think that's easier to comprehend if you're just a random, like, majority is going to buy and burn, but a little bit's also going to finance the protocol. That's right. Interpretable.
And then, as you said, the IMC on a month-to-month basis can adjust based on market conditions, that nuanced approach rather than just a big, protocol level, single-sided LP thing.
Exactly.
If you want to read more about it, there's a nice blog post that was posted in the Discord that goes into some of the details of it. I'll put it in the show notes for you to read. Okay, moving on to NodeSet. Nick in the Discord said there's a little announcement he made that they're looking at July 2024 for Constellation, which is the software that'll be built on top of Rocket Pool to run NodeSet, and that's great to hear. NodeSet, it's one of those catalysts that we're looking for the next 12 months. Where we've got Houston coming up, Jasper, May 6th, and then we're looking at a few months after that, perhaps July, as Nick said, for NodeSet, which would be a catalyst, and then later in the year, we got Saturn 1, perhaps Saturn 2, if once that's been decided. So I know you've talked about NodeSet. You think it's where the market is underselling its impact. What do you think? I'd like to hear your thoughts about what you think NodeSet's going to do for Rocket Pool.
Right. So I would like to say my first writings on NodeSet were before they even existed. I wrote this essay. I think it was
Really? You wrote white papers? I can't believe it.
No,
say it ain't so.
I wrote this paper called One SaaS to Rule Them All. And in it, I was like, whoever can figure out how to isolate the market in Rocket Pool and advertise the pure ETH yield is going to have the best staking product on the market. Right? I mean, like, people who hold RETH are paying a premium for the decentralization. That premium is the largest premium, so to speak, on the market. And that's a huge opportunity. So it really it's been a difficult problem to solve, partially because of that Houston helps enable a lot of trustless functions for this. And NodeSet, I think, is going to be the fruition of allowing people with capital to stake on Rocket Pool for higher returns, and matching that with some of the best node operators we have in the actual protocol. It seems like it aligns a ton of incentives really well. It's going to be fun to see how we can do some XRETH strategies in DeFi. I think that's going to be the first time we have an LST and like a derivative, so to speak, of that LST together in LPs. So we can do some fun stuff with that, some isolated lending markets, some good concentrated AMM strategies. And then it's going to be about building up the Lindy of XRETH itself as derived from Rocket Pool, having many of the same qualities, but still having that one layer of permissionness. So yeah, I'm super excited for NodeSet. I think they provide a very valuable product to the market that will find product market fit.
What are your thoughts on the big shiny metal right now in the Ethereum ecosystem is all these LRTs?
Right.
You got EtherFi, Renzo, Swell. Everyone's farming airdrops, and the legacy LST like Rocket Pool and Lido have seen the shine.
Statewise, Stater, all seen outflows.
No one's paying attention to us or Lido. Do you see? And then if NodeSet comes in, if the narrative at that time is still on all these LRTs, is there a chance it's just not going to take off as quickly as some think? Or do you think at some point the market narrative will shift back to, places like Rocket Pool, NodeSet, and Lido and things like that? Do you have a sense of where we're going, 6 months from now?
There's an important statistic to keep in mind. Roughly, I think it was only 23% of stETH is used in DeFi. Like extreme minority relative to the people who just passively hold it. And that's where we compete with Lido, those passive holders. And that's the majority of the market. So LRTs have attracted huge amounts of capital, right? A 60% APR on ETH is going to do that.
Right.
And that's always going to be a competitive pressure. Will NodeSet compete with the LRT inflows? I think it's a different market, at least at first. NodeSet's aiming towards more decentralization, more secure returns, whereas the LRT hype is, max risk curve. That said, Logris the Bard and I at Denver talked pretty extensively about a vision he had for what I think is a simpler way to integrate Rocket Pool and Eigenlayer. And so that path that he outlined, a few people in the community have since read this proposal, works really well with NodeSet. Insofar that once they're launched, a collaborative research effort might allow NodeSet to start offering Rocket Pool validators access to AVSs before Rocket Pool itself is. And that's kind of like the benefit of having a layer 2 technology in NodeSet that's able to move a bit faster.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. I also wondered too, like you said, the APR is high, these LRTs. Some people are farming, the season 1 farm, then you season 2. And at some point you wonder if there's going to be stickiness there, or are those people that's going to migrate to the next thing and perhaps swing back to, say NodeSet, Rocket Pool. I'm interested to see how that works out.
Right.
Right. And hopefully we'll benefit from, because nothing sticks forever, generally, in crypto. It seems like you get the spotlight shined on you for 3 months and then they're on to the next thing.
And it's important not to discount the amount of leverage that's built up in Eigenlayer. Systems like Pendle, Gearbox, I think those are the two major sources. They've provided a lot of leverage into the TVL of Eigenlayer. So the wind down could be faster than most people expect.
Interesting. We'll take a look at that. If you want to hear more, the NodeSet had a community call with Ken and Langers, and they get into, there's talk of NodeSet, there's talk of Rocket Pool stuff. I'll post it in the show notes if you want to take a listen. They're no longer on Twitter Spaces. The community calls are now done through Discord, and then they're recorded. And are you doing one on? I know Ken's done the last couple. Are you still on the schedule for doing?
Yeah, I will be on the 11th. Mav asked me to switch stuff around with Ken. I'm not exactly sure why, but maybe he's a fun guest.
We'll see. So that's 11th. That's next Thursday. Okay.
Sorry, the 10th. On the 10th.
The 10th? Wednesday.
10th at 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern time. RPIP 30 has been implemented over the course of the last few months. This coming month, as Langers announces here, that the RPL withdrawal limit has been reduced to 100% from 150% of a node's bonded ETH. So as from the beginning, you could only withdraw RPL above 150%. This is lowering it to 100, and it'll eventually be lowered down to, I think, 15% at some point. I can't remember if it's 15 or 20, but in any event,
15% of borrowed ETH or something. It was a bit confusing.
Yeah. So this is the idea between RPIP 30 was let's really concentrate rewards down at the 10 to 15% level. The idea is that if people are just staking tons of RPL, it really is not providing any additional safety for the protocol. And why don't we just speed run this and do it, and hopefully these folks will take their excess RPL, convert it to ETH, and stake more ETH into the protocol. Is there some worry that this is going to create a lot of sell pressure? What say you, Jasper?
So, RPIP 30 has been pretty well telegraphed, and the major players in the protocol have, to my knowledge, been relatively stable in their RPL holdings, like Patricio, Thomas, Marceau, what have you. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is institutions like the 1KX. where they have a ton of RPL and they continuously are spinning up mini pools. Uh, to me, it seems like they are just going to now maintain close to that 15% sweet spot,
Mm-hmm.
um, where things are more speculative is the speculative holders. People who are just holding RPL on the basis of expected future gains, they might have reacted poorly to the implementation. Uh, what I think is an unsung benefit of RPIP 30, especially in light of the new tokenomics, is this gradual reduction in the bond limit, or sorry,
Mm-hmm.
the withdrawable limit. Like, had we just switched to the new tokenomics from the beginning, I think we might have had a bit of a shaky transition because suddenly people who were locked up to 150% might now have the decision to make if they want to sell or not. Well, now we have sort of graduated into that process. That decision making is being stretched out. And so when we get to the new tokenomics, there has been some worry that people will be like, oh no, I don't need to bond RPL anymore. Why bother? Well, at that point, majority of the people will have had the option to sell their excess stake if they wanted to. Uh, and so we shouldn't see further outflows.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is an exciting time, Rockable. We got a lot going on. We got that RPIP 30 is going to be fully implemented. I think later this year. You've got Houston coming up in May. We've got NodeSet. We've got the new tokenomics. It's like we're kind of reorganizing everything in 2024, and I think that's going to really set us up nicely for the future. We'll see, though. I mean,
Yeah.
markets can be irrational sometimes.
To me, it really feels like the rebirth of Rocket Pool,
Yeah, it does.
a proper 2.0.
Yeah, absolutely. On to our last news item. Let's see, where are we? Oh, it refreshed on me. The GMC has. Oh, it's gone. There was a banner ad for
Right
Rocket
there.
Pool. Is it there? I don't see it.
Oh, no, yeah, it used to be right there.
Yeah, it was right there right before we started recording. I'm not sure what happened, but anyways, if you're on
There
Beacon,
it is.
oh, there it goes. Okay, Beacon Chain, the GMC has funded some ads. I don't know the extent or the length of, or how long or how much was spent. There it goes. It flipped through. I'm sure WAC probably knows more, but it's kind of good to see getting out there, marketing. We'll see the metrics that come back and see if we get additional node operators because of it, and see if it's worth it, right? But I just like to see. I like to see us out there, spreading the word,
Right.
whether it's advertising or us on social media. The more, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, attention value is can't be undersold in this market, in this
I know.
ecosystem.
It's all about attention.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't ask if you got a win this week, but I'll start with my win. If you don't have a win, think of it in the next 30 seconds. So, so my win is I'm going to talk about friends. I think we spend so much time online. We spend so much time in Discord. We spend so much time, and more so, isolated from each other. And I think I'm looking back on my life. I'm not that old, but thinking about you. It's as a young person, young man, especially, plant those seeds so that someday you'll be enjoying the shade that tree provides. And you don't really appreciate your friends until like the shit hits the fan. Sometimes you're like, oh, and we all have crisis in our lives at some point. And it's always great to have good people around you that you can lean on during those times. And so my win this week is just, spend time with people, cultivate those relationships, invest in them, just like we invest our fiat in crypto and ETH and RPL so that it will return and return more down the road, and we'll be able to benefit. You'll do the same with relationships. So my win is make good friends because you'll love them. And my father, he told me, in your life you'll have friends, and then you'll have friends, and those real friends, you could probably have them on just one hand,
Yeah.
but they will be with you your whole life, and it's really beneficial to have those. So that's my win.
Great
What's
win.
yours? Yeah.
Uh, I just want to say, Vitalik once wrote the scarcest resource in a crypto is legitimacy. The most important scarce resource in crypto is legitimacy.
Yeah.
I think the most important scarce resource in real life is your time. Like be meaningful how you spend your time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
my win kind of have like three.
Go ahead, hit them.
So Ken posted some research about AMMs and LSTs, and it was just so cool to see like proper universities, like it was ETH Zurich or something, writing about kind of the IMC.
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, they were analyzing how different LST tokens do in AMMs, and they found that our ETH holders or our ETH LPers do much better on average, whereas stETH holders tend to do worse than just holding stETH. Our ETH LPers tend to outperform holding our ETH.
Wow, that's excellent.
So yeah, that was a nice win. Then we saw Lido dominance fall under 30%.
30%. I saw that.
Yeah, that felt like a years long battle and winning on that.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would say the issuance. So I've been railing pretty hard against Pectra, and it seems like it won't be in Pectra.
That's great. Those are three great wins, Jasper. Thanks for, you've been generous with your time and filling in for WAC. Again, it's great to talk with you. You've given great insight. To our viewers and listeners, thanks for listening. Make sure you hit subscribe and the like button on if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks for being part of the Rocket Pool community, and we will see you next week. And WAC will be back from his special assignment. And Jasper, good luck on medical school, and we look forward to your next white paper.
Thank you. See you, everyone.